Ant & Dec's Limitless Win, Saturday at 8:30 on ITV1 and ITVX.
Now with a look at what stories are making the headlines this New Year's Day, it's the ITV News.
Millions around the world welcome in the new year. 4, 3, 2, 1. In London, Edinburgh and across the globe, fireworks lit up the night sky to herald in 2023. Also on the programme, a record number of migrants, 45,000, crossed the Channel last year. Ukraine suffers a fresh round of missile attacks as President Zelensky tells Russia their leader is destroying their own country. And music star Anita Pointer, one of the Pointer sisters, has died at the age of 74.
This is ITV News with Lucy Watson.
Good afternoon. Millions of people around the world have been celebrating the new year. Here, the bongs of Big Ben set off a spectacular fireworks display, the first major celebrations in the capital since the pandemic. And in Edinburgh, 30,000 filled the streets for the first big public hogmanay party in 3 years. Alex Isaac reports on how the world welcomed 2023.
The whole world has welcomed the new year, with the American continent the last to raise a glass to 2023. COVID masks were noticeably absent in Times Square, and many took advantage to get up close and personal when the clock struck midnight.
It was rough pandemic, and we just want a happy 2023.
And we want things to get back to normal again.
It's important to slow down and be grateful for what you got.
With reduced celebrations over the past few years, many countries were determined to come back with a bang. In London, huge crowds gathered along the Thames embankment to watch 12,000 fireworks streak across the sky. The sold-out event sent a message of love and unity, showcasing support for Ukraine, 50 years of London pride, and included a poignant tribute to the late Queen and the King, as well as highlights from the past year. Despite the rain, spirits were high in Edinburgh as the Hogmanay party returned for the first time in 3 years.
It's nice. It's a really nice vibe, Good energy.
2023, baby! We're warm, we're wet, but we're warm and we're happy. It's good.
And kicking off the 2023 celebrations in style was New Zealand. And festivities continued worldwide. The skies above Sydney lit up. Beaches were packed in Brazil. Hong Kong dazzled with lights. In Paris, the Arc de Triomphe was alight as fireworks burst overhead. And it was a record-breaking display in Dubai, with 828 million fireworks set off from 287 locations. As celebrations wind down and the reality of a new year begins, the world can remember how it began, with a spectacular bang. Alex Isaac, ITV News.
A record-breaking number of migrants crossed the Channel in small boats last year. Figures out today show that nearly 46,000 people made the dangerous journey across the Dover Straits in 2022. That's up 60% compared with the previous year, 2021. Well, our political correspondent Romilly Weeks joins me now. Romilly, a record number of migrants, but not really a surprise.
No, sadly, we've all become too aware of the numbers of people making the really dangerous this journey across the Channel, even more so because of tragedies like the one earlier this month when 4 people lost their lives. The numbers, as you say, are up dramatically. Part of that, we know, is fuelled by a large number of Albanian people trying to make the crossing, who've made up about a quarter of those crossing in the last year. However, to give some context to all this, there hasn't been a jump on the same scale in the overall numbers of people coming to the UK through illegal routes. Part of the reason that we're seeing more people come in small boats is that some of the other routes, such as arriving in the back of lorries or trying to get on the Eurostar, have been made much more difficult. However, campaign groups like Migration Watch UK, which campaigns for lower immigration, says their numbers are far too high.
We cannot go on taking in that sort of number of people who've crossed illegally, and those who say it's not illegal, it is, until we send out a clear message that if you arrive this way, you're not going to be able to stay, you're not going to be allowed to stay. I'm afraid the numbers will keep going up.
While the government is trying, certainly, to send that message, the Prime Minister has staked a lot of political capital on saying that he will sort out the small boat crossings, including coming up with his 5-point plan, which is going to introduce legislation, he says, this year to make it clear that those who arrive illegally will be deported. Campaigners say, though, until there are more safe and legal routes, this problem will continue.
Romilly, thank you. In his first wartime New Year address, President Zelensky has vowed to keep up the fight as Russia unleashed a new wave of missile strikes on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. The Ukrainian leader says his only wish for 2023 is victory. He also used his speech to tell Russians that their leader, Vladimir Putin, is destroying their own country. Vincent McAviney has this report.
Instead of fireworks filling the skies over Ukraine on New Year's Eve, it was yet more Russian missiles and drones. Several blasts across the capital, Kyiv, damaged buildings, killing at least one person, injuring dozens. But as the sirens wailed again overnight, Ukrainians were undeterred. They packed their streets and squares in defiance, filling the night with song before an 11 p.m. curfew, hoping that 2023 will be a brighter year for their country.
I wish that there will be no rockets hitting, shots, basements. I want to be happy and for Ukraine to be beautiful.
I wish that this year would bring us peace and quiet. I hope that all our cities will stop being under shelling. My hometown is under shelling all the time, like Kyiv. I wish the whole world peace and health and everything to be in the best way.
President Volodymyr Zelensky had already delivered a New Year address to his people, but after yet more shelling, he spoke in Russian to those over the border.
The war's purpose is for one man to remain in power for the rest of his life. He hides behind the military, behind missiles, behind the walls of his residences and palaces. He is hiding behind you, and he is burning down your country and your future.
Earlier in Moscow, President Putin, surrounded by soldiers, had promised victory in his special military operation and against the West he claims is intent on destroying Russia. At Kyiv's train station, some of the soldiers who have thwarted Putin, who last New Year were ordinary civilians, were given a break from the fighting to be reunited with loved ones. This country and its people were tested like no other in 2022. But in the depths of this dark winter, their spirits are still bright. Vincent McAviney, ITV News.
Pope Francis has led prayers for his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI.
Particolare per il Papa Emerito Benedetto XVI.
Appearing at the papal window at the Vatican, the Pope expressed thanks once again for his lifetime of service. The former Pope will lie in state in St. Peter's Basilica from tomorrow. And in a New Year video message, the Archbishop of Canterbury has urged the government to take action to fix what he says is the country's broken social care system. The Most Reverend Justin Welby said care homes are struggling to deal with rising bills while trying to find and retain the staff they need to keep going. And finally, one of the Grammy Award-winning Pointer sisters has died. Anita Pointer was 74. Her family said heaven is a more loving, beautiful place with Anita there. She and her sisters rose to fame with a series of hits in the 70s and 80s, including I'm So Excited and Jump. Jay Akbar looks back at her life and her musical legacy.
Let's get excited. As part of this iconic trio, Anita Pointer gave the world decades of get up and dance energy. Without them, we wouldn't have this. Their songs instantly recognisable, the energy soulful and infectious. Anita was one of those people born to be on stage. She learned to sing in her father's church and in 1969 quit her job to form a trio with sisters Bonnie and June. Ruth joined shortly after, and the famous quartet As We Know It was born. From their debut album in '73, their first big hit, Yes We Can, kicked off a decade of chart-topping success, 3 Grammys, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and an enduring musical legacy.
I think if you get as big as they did in the early 80s, then you're going to have an impact on a lot of people. And I mean, their music was so beloved and so well remembered for so long that, 20 years after they were a really big act, Girls Aloud covered Jump, and that was featured in Love Actually.
Anita was first diagnosed with cancer in 2011, and last night, surrounded by those who loved her, she died at her home in Los Angeles. Her family said she was the one that kept all of us close and together for so long. Her love of our family will live on in each of us. Heaven is a more loving, beautiful place with Anita there. Even in her final years, 2 constants remained. Her love for her sisters, here's Bonnie dancing in her car, and her voice, if this impromptu gig in Vegas just 3 years ago is anything to go by. Her passing leaves Ruth as the only surviving Pointer sister, but in living rooms, kitchens, on dance floors and beyond, Anita Pointer will, of course, live on.
Anita Pointer, who's died at the age of 74. And that is it from us. I am back with the late news at 11:05 tonight. Until then, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye from us.
Feel good.